Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the North Rose-Wolcott Central School Board meeting. I am Lucinda Collier, the president of the board, and I will call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There. The first order of business is for us to approve the agenda. I do need to add one item under number 3, the reports and correspondence. Please add a 4th bullet for a report of the safety committee by John Bogard, our board member. With that addition, is there a motion to approve the agenda? Izetta, second Linda. Any discussion? All in favor? For hands. All right, I see everyone. Thank you. That is approved. It's nice. I see Regent Norwood here. Thank you for coming. I will turn this over to Michael Pullen, our superintendent, to introduce you.
Thank you, Mrs. Collier. So it's an honor and a pleasure to have Regent Wade Norwood with us this evening. You may have recognized him from his work as a regent for New York State. I've had the pleasure of interacting with Regent Norwood over the years when he visited my high school, get a chance to walk down the hall, take a little bit of perspective away from him. And it's clear to me, and I would venture to guess anybody who interacts with him, that he is a tireless advocate for all children, regardless of their background, whether it comes from rural, suburban, or urban areas. He's a staunch advocate and a heck of an ally for us. Most recently, I believe in 2018, he became the CEO of Common Ground Health. And tonight's presentation, I'm thinking is going to focus a little bit on that. And I think as you hear from Bridget Barr, Community Schools Administrator, a lot of the work that Regent Norwood has been able to share through Common Ground Health is present in a lot of our practices when it comes down to community schools and advocating for our side of the county in terms of offering our students and our families equitable opportunities for services. So I'm really appreciative of Mr. Norwood coming in tonight, spending some time with us. I know he's a busy man, and it's taken us about 1.5 years to get his schedule to align with ours. So it just speaks to his commitments around the state and his commitments to education and to Common Ground Health. So without any further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Regent Norwood and let him get started. Thank you, Regent Norwood.
Superintendent Pullen, thank you very much for that gracious introduction. It is an absolute delight to be here. And I hope that we figured out how to get my slides in the hands of someone to bring up. And if that can happen as I do the throat clearing would be wonderful. And I would just say by way of introduction to President Collier and to the Honorable Board, how much I really appreciate this opportunity to visit with you this evening. Rose, New York is where, when I was a child, my family would drive for us to worship on Sundays. And so in many ways, I feel very connected to Wayne County. To those Sunday afternoons spent at Sodas Point. And as the superintendent noted, I have found as many opportunities as possible in my current work as a regent and at Common Ground Health to make sure that I and my team members are very much engaged with Wayne County and with North Rose-Wolcott in particular. And I would be remiss if I did not spend a couple of my few precious moments just saying thank you to you all. Without a doubt, these have been challenging times for not only evolving education, but for the administration and operations of school districts. And I want you to know how much I am aware and how much my colleagues in the state education department and in the world of health improvement are aware of how incredible pioneers you all have been. And if I can move from thinking institutionally to thinking individually, I spent 16 years of my life as an elected official. And I am incredibly aware of the fact that what we're doing right now, as my wife is sitting at the dinner table eating without me, what we're doing right now is what I did for a window in my life, but it's what you guys do now. And on behalf of a grateful Finger Lakes community, please allow me to say thank you to you all for your service, for your commitment to serving the North Rose-Wolcott community, and for the sacrifices that you make every day in order to be the public servants and the servant leaders that you are. I'll move to my short presentation to you this evening by first of all introducing Common Ground Health, which is the regional health planning entity for the 9-county Finger Lakes region. We see it as our mission to bring focus to the region's health issues through our research, data, and analytic, through our community engagement, and through the community partnerships like the Wayne County Family Partnership in which we participate. I would say that the secret sauce, the magic to our work, isn't really the data, but rather the over 700 volunteers from across the region who sit on the 24 different tables that we convene, ranging from our African American Health Coalition to our Workforce Consortium. It is that breadth and depth of leaders from all the sectors of our community at every level that really allow us to transform, next slide, transform our data into information and into understanding. This slide's animated, so you can click as I talk through. We really believe that the major part of the work we do, and I want you to know how much your community schools program is an important part of what we see occurring in this community. We really try and make sure that we are focused on how it is that we might inform the community and leaders like you in your action, how it is that we might be better collaborators with you, and how it is that we might make sure that our collective work aims towards transformation of ending status quo business as usual and moving to next level. And one of my mantras for the last 22 months has been, a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. And we should be aiming to move from this pandemic mode, not back to normal, because normal wasn't good for everyone, but to the next normal, figuring it out. What are the lessons that we might learn, and how might those lessons be applied towards ensuring that we wind up in a place that is not less, not the same, but better and more beautiful than that which we left in March 2020 when the world went sideways. And my hope is to further introduce thinking about health and public health in your deliberations so that you might have more information, more research, data, and analytic to bring focus to your work. Next slide, please. When I speak to the community about public health in the Finger Lakes region, I want you to know that most folks are really fooled by the data and tend to think that because of the fact that our overall regional data does such a great job of presenting us as a community of affluence, that most people do not understand how widespread poverty is within our region, how poverty is not relegated to the inner city of Rochester, and how the face of poverty does not look like my face, but rather looks like our faces. And I've been doing this work since 2006, and I want you to know that audiences to which I present are still stunned when they are confronted with the data to realize that the tale of two cities of our region is a palpable and real story, that cheek by jowl with our prosperity are folks who are living in poverty. And quite honestly, maps of Wayne County and data of Wayne County are incredibly powerful data points for me to share because of the fact that you all, by the very nature of Wayne County, live with that duality as residents of Wayne. And within North Rose-Wolcott, you all understand the challenge of how is it that we maintain the sense of prosperity and affluence and the attractiveness and the high quality of life our region provides, while at the same time acknowledging the reality that it is not a prosperity that's shared by all households. Next slide, please. This is the reality of Wayne County, that if we map Wayne County by zip code, by socioeconomic status, with SCS being a composite measure that my much brighter than I colleagues at Common Ground Health have crafted as a way of capturing the unemployment rate within the zip code, the types of jobs held by adults in the zip code, the per capita income, the poverty rate, the age of the population, household composition. And if we take those indicators and we place them on a scale from high to low, with the lowest on the top map being essentially the poorest in our community, and the lighter the color, the higher the SCS, the wealthier, what we are able to share with folks is how incredibly palpable this tale of two cities is for Wayne County. And for my work in health planning, the second map is the same, Wayne County divided by zip code, but here the color coding isn't about class. Here, the color coding is about premature death. The rate at which residents of Wayne County die before life expectancy. And here, for our purposes, life expectancy at age 75. It's an amazing picture that allows us to see, quite literally, how poverty is killing us. And Madam President, I could share maps for the region and you would see this exact pattern played out across the region from Lake Ontario down to the Pennsylvania line, from Seneca County to Chemung. Poverty has real impacts on the health of our community. And I dare say, and it is this incredible gift that I have as a member of the Board of Regents who works each day in the world of health, to understand the absolute genius of Franklin Roosevelt and Francis Perkins and their colleagues, who, when the federal government created the bureaucracy, they created it as the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare. In many ways, we've made a mistake by trying to think that those are three different policy areas. Health and education are inextricably linked. And what we do in health and education determines the general welfare of the community. Next slide, please. And so, as we look at Wayne County and think about Eastern versus Western Wayne, what we begin to document is what you all have always known. There is a vast difference between the two, and thinking and analyzing at the county level is insufficient. Because when we look at Eastern versus Western Wayne, we see profound differences in household income. We see profound differences in the poverty level. Next slide, please. We see profound differences in the rate at which children are living in poverty. And consequently, we get to see the impact on school operations and the incredible obligation that you and your sister districts in Eastern Wayne County have to meeting the simple human needs of the students in your classrooms. And I really appreciate this opportunity. One of our mantras in community organizing is nothing about me without me. And so I appreciate the chance, Madam President, to make sure that you and your colleagues are aware of the fact that we carry this slide. And we have been carrying this slide since the pandemic struck across the region, to make sure that this community understands the special obligation that you all have had, the special ways in which you've needed to extend yourselves and lean forward during this crisis. And my opportunity is to make sure that folks understand that predates the pandemic, that this is the nature of work when educators take ownership and stewardship of how is it that we're going to meet the needs of students who are being raised in households that are below the poverty level. And the special work that you do, the incredible achievements that you've made, are really my whole purpose in spotlighting tonight. And I am incredibly grateful to be on your agenda this evening, knowing that your experts are here and will follow me, sharing some of the things that I just want to say to you are greatly appreciated by me and my colleagues in health improvement. Next slide, please. This is a charting of childhood overweight and obesity, which has really been the impetus for Common Ground Health, involving itself in partnerships with school districts. And I am incredibly grateful for the manner in which your team, the superintendent, the Wayne County Family Partnership, the BOCES, have really been welcoming partners to our bringing the health sector in to support your work. If we look at, and these are small changes, but small changes are meaningful in short time windows. If we look at the rate at which children in Eastern Wayne have reported being overweight or obese, we can see that the work you all are doing is making a difference. You all are concretely contributing to better health for your students, which means better health trajectories over the course of their lives. And although my son is 32 and my daughter 23, I am still able to remember how the lessons of wellness, individual and community wellness that they learned at school were brought home, and they changed our behavior. I absolutely know I started recycling because my children were absolutely heartbroken if I didn't. I really posit that the things that you all are teaching and that you are doing with your students and have been doing over the course of the last 10 years are not only making a difference in the lives of your students, but in the lives of their families. And I just want to share data with you to let you know you are making a difference. And this is where I easily migrate from being a health planner to being Pastor Norwood, and just simply say to you, be not weary in well-doing. I absolutely am appreciative of the incredible crucible in which you all work and are doing your work. And I know that for every laudatory statement I'm making tonight, there are members of your community who would substitute my laudatory comments with 50 criticisms. But I would just say to you, as a colleague of yours, as someone who serves on the state school board, endure, stand, rest with the confidence in the rightness of your work. And we will continue our best effort to bring to you the data to allow you to see the results and the fruits of your labor. And we will join with you in sharing this information in your community so that folks can know what you are doing is meaningful, and why it is that as your regional health planner and as an at-large member of the Regents, I'm grateful and appreciate what you and your colleagues are doing. Next slide, and I'll move to my home stretch and get out of your way because I know you have a lengthy agenda. I would just share with you, this slide is an incredibly important slide in my work because of the fact that we have surveyed the region, 6,855 people in the Finger Lakes region talk to us about health and health improvement. And what is incredibly clear is it makes no difference where people live, what color they are, how much money they make, how much education they have. Every adult in our region wants to live healthy and wants their children to live healthy. And everybody aims for individual health improvement. But there are real barriers between our aspirations and our actions. And those barriers are incredibly responsive to household income. And what we know clearly, and these quotes are from folks who live in Wayne County, what we know incredibly clearly is that if you live in a household with an income less than $25,000 a year, money is a real problem. Eating healthy is expensive. And we may not think that as we go grocery shopping, but the reality is, if you think about how much food you can buy with ramen noodles or Taco Bell versus buying ingredients at a grocery store, it is very easy for us to understand why healthy eating, although it is an aspiration commonly shared, it's a reality achieved only by those in higher income households. So what you do to support access to healthy meals through your district-based food program is incredibly important. And how it is you responded to make sure that your students who are in food insecure households were able to gain access to food in the spring and summer of 2020 is something that history will know because of how important it was. Next slide. By the same regard, what we find are real differences, not in people's desire to be physically active, but in the reality of being physically active. And so that's why your county partnership is important, because it gives us the ability to talk to town, village, and county government about how it is that we make resources available in the built environment for folks to be physically active without thinking about the fact that they need to buy a gym membership in order to improve and support their health. When we make walking a safer and more pleasant experience, when we make sure that playgrounds and parks are available to children and families, those are things that offset those barriers that stand in the way of people being physically active and improving their health and their general well-being. Next slide. And I've only 2 to go and I'm almost done. I will just share with you out of our regional health survey, which we released in 2019. I want you to understand the extent to which we have talked to the health systems and the insurer community to make sure that they understand that for your neighbors, and this isn't unique to Wayne, out-of-pocket cost is a huge barrier to people accessing health and health supporting services. And we think, well, we provided insurance for more people. That $25 copay is more than enough for many families to decide, well, I will just delay care because I can't afford that copayment. Outside of cost, so that you're aware, weight, body weight, and mental and emotional health really jumped up as serious issues of concern for the folks who live in Wayne County. And I hope that you'll note at the bottom right, we ask people, when it comes to health, what's your major concern? When it comes to the health of your children, what's your major concern? And with no prompting whatsoever other than that general question, in Wayne County, when adults were asked, what's important for children? I hope you note education made the top 5. People in your community understand education is a health issue. And this was a screaming finding for my board of directors to say to me, as you all say to Superintendent Pullen on other matters, my board said to me, we don't want you to think about being a regent as something you do on the side of your job. We use, my board said, this data to say as a regent, you must connect health to education. And as the CEO of Common Ground Health, you must connect education to health. And that's why you and the work that you do and the fact that you have such a highly evolved community schools program that is data-driven and that has data to prove its value is of incredible importance, because you prove that these issues of poverty, the importance of school districts addressing the Maslow's hierarchy, that's not an issue for the inner cities of Rochester and Elmira. That's an issue for all of us. And as a result, I just wanted to be present to tell you that what you do, your work, and the incredible success of your staff is of immeasurable value to those of us in the health world. One more slide and then I'm done. I want you to know that when we surveyed the region in the summer of 2018 to release in 2019, when we surveyed the community and asked them about mental and emotional health, 90% of the adults who live in the Finger Lakes region who responded to our survey told us that their mental and emotional health was either good, very good, or excellent. And 90% is a Chamber of Commerce number. We can use that in marketing ourselves as a great place to raise a family. But it leaves the fact that 10% said that their mental and emotional health was fair at best, if not poor. And that 10% becomes 54% when we zero in on those adults who live in households with incomes of less than $25,000 a year, who rate the neighborhood in which they live, urban, suburban, or rural, as unsafe, and who report that they have barriers, transportation barriers, that they have to confront every day. And this slide zeroes in on Wayne County. And what I am incredibly possessed of every day is all of this data was gathered in the summer of 2018, pre-pandemic. And I live every day understanding how compromised my well-being is because I'm not with you personally. And I don't have the chance to hug those of you that I know and to be in physical relationship with my new friends I'm making this evening. I know that when the world opens up again, although I sit here in Zoom and necktie, I'm very comfortable doing that. I have lived the last 2 years without wearing socks. And the day I have to go back to wearing socks for 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, I am going to have to struggle through that. This is pre-pandemic data. How much differently, how much more challenging, how worse is it going to look when we recreate this survey in the summer, God willing, in the summer of 22? And this is just the adults. If this is what the adults are telling us, you know the reality of the children. Because children learn what they live, and this is what the children are living. Final slide. And so we are very dedicated to making sure that this and all of our other data are available on our website. We just released our Color of Health report, which focuses in on African American health within the region, but all of our data can be found on our website. I invite you to take a look. I invite you to share our link with colleagues. We've redesigned our website so it kind of has an Amazon feel. If you Google and say, I want to see smoking, Wayne County, New York, we have paid the price for Google Analytics so that our site will jump up at the top and give you that data. And when you land on our website, it will also say, if you're looking at this, you might be interested in these other things. As you all work with your staff, if there are points of data that we're not making available that will help bring focus to your work, I ask you as your friend, please let me know. And at no charge, we will take on that task because that's why we're here. And my aim is to make sure that you and your colleagues on all of the school districts in our region understand that we are a resource available to you. My final slide is my ending slide. And let me just end by thanking you and your community schools team. Let me end by thanking the superintendent for the incredible leadership that he's showing with regard to telehealth services and how we might bring them closer to the lives of our students. And President Collier, I just thank you for your indulgence this evening. The courtesy extended is much appreciated, and I will proudly report at the February meeting of the Board of Regents my appreciation for and admiration for the work that you and your colleagues are doing in the North Rose-Wolcott district. Thank you, ma'am.
Well, thank you for being with us. It was very informative, and a lot of it justifies our thinking for certain of where we're trying to head and where we're trying to support our superintendent as he moves forward, connecting our families to better health services throughout our district. So thank you so much.
Very welcome, ma'am. And I will excuse myself so you all can conduct your business, but please feel free to call on me. And I'm happy before I sign off to respond to any comments, questions, or concerns.
Any board members want to comment? Ask a question?
Jason would like to.
All right.
I want to thank you, Mr. Norwood, for a great presentation. Ironically, we had a presentation a few months ago from from Megan Pagliatti that touched a couple of the points that you made, and it kind of got me more in tune and more interested in learning more about the health of our area. There's a vast inequity of access to public health healthcare providers between Wayne and Monroe County. It's I don't remember the exact numbers, but I do remember that Wayne County's healthcare providers had virtually a double of the caseload of patients that Monroe County had. And the number that sticks in my head was 3,000 to 1 in Wayne County and around 1,500 to 1 in Monroe County as a rough number. So I guess my question is, how are communities combating the inequity of access to healthcare providers in rural areas and in areas of economic, where there's room for economic improvement?
Jason, I could kiss your brother for the question. First of all, let me use it as a chance to say gold star to Megan Pagliatti. Megan is incredible, and the work she does is deeply appreciated. I think that we have to really start wrestling with the fact that the educational and health professional practice system does not seek to place practitioners in rural areas. It really incentivizes being in the metro, where the quaternary and tertiary care centers are located. And we have to really say we're not providing continuous open access to comprehensive care for people if they have to travel outside of their community to get to their care provider. Healthcare workforce located in rural communities is a justice issue. And again, a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. What we are experiencing right now is a huge workforce crisis in every sector, in every community. We need to be, you all need to be, and I am on your behalf, very involved in responding to the governor's budget, her proposals for how we address healthcare workforce shortages, by saying it is not an absolute issue, it's an absolute and relative issue. And the state has got to think about what are the incentives to encourage healthcare professionals to locate in rural communities. That's the answer. It's not changing the numerator, it's changing the denominator. We've got to get more professionals who support and embrace working in a community outside of the metro seat. And the blessing of Rochester is, outside of Monroe County and the Finger Lakes, if you want to be urban, if you want to be suburban, if you want to be rural, you find that in the other 8 counties. It's not limited to Monroe. There are urban and suburban communities outside of Monroe that are great places to live, work, play, and pray. And that's the message we've got to deliver. And I'm trying to argue in Albany, that's the message for the state's survival. It's not convincing more people to go to New York City. It's convincing more people who are tired, and this experience has proven, tired of living in the megalopoli of Philly and Raleigh and Boston. Come to the Finger Lakes. High quality of life, good living, and great schools.
I'm going to spend a lot of time on your website because I've been looking for the information that you showed tonight, and it's kind of hard to find on the census's website. So I hope you don't mind if I shoot you an email once in a while with some questions. And thanks
You
again.
are very welcome to, and that is the fuel that will keep my staff going, to know it's hard to find on the census site, but boy, you're making it easy to find on the Common Ground Health site. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, sir.
Madam President, thank you.
So,
Thank you very much.
Mr. Norwood, before you go, I just want to say thank you again. Deeply appreciate your time, your commitment, everything that you provide for us locally and at the state level. You know, your presentation was shared with us about a year ago. And as Mrs. Collier said, a lot of the work that you have fostered and put into place, we took that and we use that as part of our new teacher orientation. So we want to share the data, but we more importantly want to tell the story so that when we build relationships and we foster a community, people are aware of what we're getting into and what we're trying to do, and think about the pathway that you've carved out and that you continue to advocate for us. So really appreciate your time and thank you. I hope you can make it to the table so that Mrs. Norwood and you can enjoy a little bit of dinner together. So thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you,
night.
sir.
You
Good
bet.
night.
Good
Bye-bye.
night, all. And Michael, thank you to your team for the incredible support we had in setting this up. Deeply
Thank you.
appreciated.
Thank
Good night,
you.
all.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good night. Thank you, Michael, for making this happen. That was great to hear. And it justifies what we're trying to do
Absolutely.
with the health of our families.
Absolutely.
We can move on to Gary's presentation of this section of the budget.
Okay, and thank you. And good evening. So Tina, you can go to the next slide. These first couple slides are what you have seen before. Just want to show these again, remind ourselves and the public about the district goals and our budget guidelines. So next slide, please. Again, our budget goals, just the major goals that we have. And you saw this last time. Again, these presentations will be up on our website for our public. Next slide, please. Okay, so since the last meeting, here's the update. We did receive the governor's aid proposal. She did her state of the state address last week, and that really helps shape our entire budget. So it's although on the revenue side, we know we have to have a balanced budget. We present to the voters an appropriation budget authorizing the total budget that we're allowed to spend, but it really has to be supported by our revenues. And so the reason this state aid proposal is so important for us because state aid represents roughly 65% of our budget, or of our revenues to support our budget. So we do have some good news tonight. And I want to say that, and as you've seen over the last few months with the new governor, there is a new tone at the top. It is I think, a more friendly tone from the governor's office, a tone that says the governor is more committed than we've seen over the last several years to public education, right? So we're very thankful for that. So more specifically, Governor Hochul has committed to fully funding foundational aid over the next 2 years. And her proposal does include a minimum 3% increase in foundation aid. Okay, and that's exactly where we are with her proposal. We're right at the 3% level. Our overall aid is coming in between 4.5% and 5% increase. So very healthy increase in our state aid from one year to the next. That will help alleviate some of the pressures that we are dealing with as we put this budget together. Okay, so she is committed to fully funding as they have been, not threatening, as we've seen in the past, a reduction in expense-based aids categories such as BOCES and transportation aid and instructional materials aid. So those will continue at the same level in terms of aidable pieces to our expenditures in those areas. Next slide, please. Okay, so what is the impact of the governor's proposal for us? As I just mentioned, it'll help alleviate some of the pressures. And I just want to remind the board that there is a slide about our major cost factors that we're dealing with, and in particular, the huge increase that we're facing this year in health insurance costs. So as I mentioned, the 4.5% to 5% increase that we're looking at is almost $1 million increase to our budget. Our total aid is going from 20.6 million to roughly 21.6 million. So just under $1 million increase in total aid from one year to the next. And we're going to need that to support our budget. Okay, and the bottom section there really goes to what Regent Norwood was just talking about, at least in terms of providing a high quality education and addressing some student mental health needs. So these are just some general areas that I threw in there that are coming out of the governor's office, part of her overall proposal. We'll see how that plays out directly for our area and our school district. So next slide, please. And here's what you've seen before. Not much of an update. We still don't have the final increase for our retirement rates for TRS. We know the range between 2% and 7% increase. We're ready to deal with that. We expect those rates to come out in the next couple of weeks. And at health insurance rates, that's the big line item in our budget. So we hope that and expect that those rates may come in just a little under 25% level, but nonetheless, it's going to be that is the biggest challenge to our budget to budget expenditures. Okay, and again, salaries and benefits, we are a people organization that represents 60% of our budget. So that's the big factor. So I'm going to just wrap up kind of quickly here. Next slide. As I will remind ourselves with each presentation, as we get closer and closer and cross some of these key dates on our timeline. So the first one was this governor's aid proposal. So that's really helping shape our budget. We're working on that. That will have a key effect to where we come in on our tax levy and our tax rates, and also our ability to support the programs that we intend to support. So that's the presentation for tonight. Before future slides, we'll start seeing some more specific information on our budget in terms of charts and more detail. So that's what we have to look forward to. So this was a good starting point for us seeing the state aid proposal. Any questions?
John?
Carrie?
Yep.
A fundamental question is, what is foundation aid and instructional materials aid? The foundation aid is basically everything I know, but can you explain?
Well, there's many different aid categories. I mentioned some of the larger expense-based aids based on our expenditures, such as our BOCE services, our transportation expenses. Those are big expense-based categories, but the foundation aid really represents our general aid. That's what all districts receive, general state aid, and that aid is series of calculations based on several wealth factors for the district. Wealth and enrollment factors are the key indicators that drive that aid, but that's general aid right there. So, and then instructional materials aids amount to about $100,000, or actually a little bit less in total aid. That is computer software aid, computer hardware aid, library materials aid, and aid for textbooks. Those aids are largely based on our enrollment count, a certain dollar amount we receive in those categories for each pupil that we have. So that's not a significant or a huge material amount, but it's an important piece of the overall aid picture.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Last Monday night, I listened to a presentation by Dr. Rick Timms, and he was discussing the foundation aid and the formula. And he was saying how inadequate and how wrong the formula really is. One of the things that I did not know was that to determine the wealth of a district, they combine an average of property value and income value for the district. But the problem comes with the property value. What they're used for that would be the lakeshore, if you're close to a ski resort, some of those that really skew the idea of what the wealth of the district is. And it really does make it a very bad thing for areas like us. When we have these we have, of course, the lake frontage, and that it skews the formula terribly, and it's not in our favor.
No, it's not. That's why I think it is encouraging to hear that the governor is at least acknowledging faults with the foundation aid formula, and has committed to a minimum increase from year to year to help rectify that. So 3% minimum increase across the state. I think with her just being in office for a short time, it's a significant commitment. And
he did not feel that while the 3% increase is good, he did not feel that it would, the increase of 3% will not equal the increased costs that districts are facing. Because
you're right, it doesn't.
Because of inflation and student need.
Right, it does not. We know that the inflation factor for us is about 4.5% for this year. So you're right, it does not cover it. There are winners and losers across the state when it comes to how all the state aid formulas run. So we're not there yet, but our overall increase is positive. It's more than the 3%. So it's something I think we can hope for changes to improve that formula and help districts like ours. But you're right, there's a lot of improvement needed with the formula.
And there was, he talked at length about the tax cap and its calculation. And I have to say, he was going faster than I could process at that point. So I really do want to go back and look at that more carefully when I have a chance. But he was cautioning districts to always as, let's see, let me think about this. Make sure that we use all that we can of the tax cap, because if you don't, in the future, you never get that back, because it's always based on last year.
Yep,
Meant
that
to
is
say
true,
that
and
correctly, but
that is true. And Superintendent Poland and I have been talking about where we are with our tax levy limit this year. We've gone through those calculations. We're still ironing those out. There are some caveats to that. There is, if you don't reach the maximum limit, which in our case right now we're looking at that maximum limit at about 4.5%. So it does present kind of a challenge for us in one way, but an opportunity in another to take a look at what the tax levy limit is for us, and reach a point that is fundamentally sound for our districts and our taxpayers. So that's what
Yeah.
we're working on over the next month, and we'll be talking about that some more.
okay. And the other thing that he said is going to be quite detrimental is because taxpayers as a whole hear about all this wonderful funding that has come in from the federal government due to the COVID. And so they think that we have a lot of money. And while that money was spent on expendable things, you know, maybe the Chromebooks were purchased and things that you needed to have to do the virtual school. Those things are going to need replacement in a few years or soon. So that you're going to have money for those, and those are going to end up out of your budget. I would encourage all the board members to take time and go to the 4-county website and spend an hour and listen to that presentation, because I think it'll give you some background that will really enable you to understand what Gary and Michael are really trying to do and what they're dealing with. So
I will say that he has been a huge advocate for schools across the state. He's been advocating on our behalf and trying to rectify the issues, particularly with the formulas.
yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Do any of you have a question? Linda, am I hearing you?
Yeah, I wanted to make a comment. I thank you, Gary, for talking about, you know, the big issue with foundation aid and how it just is not well done. It's not well thought out. It's not well done. It's something that has been a thorn in many districts' side for a long time. It's something that I know our 4-county legislative committee is pushing for change. Superintendents are pushing for change. So hopefully we're started in that direction.
Yeah, I hope so, and I hope we have someone at the top who's listening now.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much. And if I can, here's my agenda. I think we can move on to our reports and correspondence. Thank you, Gary. First report, Michael, do you want to introduce the high school?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Cinda. Gary, nice job. So it's a pleasure to have Scott Bradley, Amanda Johnson, and Amy Plow with us tonight. They're going to be presenting an idea for a club, and this really goes back to a lot of what we've been focused on with our strategic action plan and how we value diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's something that really, I think you're going to find really forward thinking on their part, and something that's in response to a growing need for students to feel safe regardless of their background, and I don't want to steal their thunder because they did a great job presenting this club proposal to our administrative council. So I'm going to turn it over to Scott, let him get started before Amy and Amanda jump in.
Thank you. You see that screen? Did that come up?
Yes.
Okay. Appreciate the opportunity to speak with everybody tonight and being able to present this idea. So this goes back to the last year. We had Jeanette Adams Price come in and do some professional development for our staff, and Amanda Johnston and Amy Plow came to me partway through that presentation with the idea and said, this is something we'd really like to do, to start a Gay Straight Alliance club here at the high school. Through that, we talked about how it really ties in and connects with the district's strategic action plan and our school improvement plan for the building and the goals that we have in there. Really specifically, it connects to the equity promise of creating a safe, honest, and welcoming environment that appreciates diverse backgrounds, experiences, and perspectives. So they did a great job in putting the work together to come up with this proposal. So I'm going to have them share some of the great ideas that they've put together.
Thank you. We just want to start off by saying thank you so much for the opportunity to present about this. We're hoping it becomes a really successful chance for students to develop a bunch of different skills, as well as supporting the mental health of a lot of our students.
So I think our main goal with a creation of the GSA is just to create an environment where everyone can feel safe and protected and understood, and give everyone the ability to kind of find people who are like them or who support them or who, you know, just want to learn more about their lifestyle. So our mission statement is pretty, you know, just open for everybody. So why a GSA at NRW? Like Mr. Bradley had mentioned, we have gone through the training with Jeanette, who is amazing. If you ever have the opportunity to take a training with her, we highly recommend it. She's phenomenal. She showed us some stats that really kind of hit home. They're on the screen in front of you. It really was just kind of eye-opening for us to see how much students who are within the LGBTQIA community really struggle with finding their place and finding people who are like them, and just having the ability to meet, to, you know, get together with other people. So that really kind of sparked Amanda and I to want to start a group.
Right. And if you look at the statistics, it really matches with what the first presentation about that included information on mental health within our county. These statistics are a broader look, not necessarily just our county, but you can see, not to read the slide to you all, but 77% of teenagers who are in the LGBTQIA community struggle with depression. And we can see that that's an issue with our county as a whole, but we're hoping that this club might give an opportunity to maybe help our students with those things.
So we're hoping that we can just add resources. We can address some of the gaps that are missing for our students who are already members of the community or who are allies for those students. We really just want to make sure that everyone feels included, that it is an inclusive environment, that, you know, we can kind of help down that path of empathy and understanding what other people are going through and where they're coming from. Our main goal, I think Amanda and I feel very strongly about this. We want the kids to feel empowered, and we want them to feel value and just learn to be able to stand up for what they think and how they feel, and advocate for, you know, the safety and the how everybody is, you know, just kind of blending everybody together.
Right. And like Amy said, it's about the members of the community but the LGBTQIA plus community, but also the allies, give them the opportunity to really step into the roles that they may already be trying to play as advocates and leaders within the school community.
So the empower word, it really kind of stuck with us when we were working with Jeanette. You know, going through the trainings with her, it really empowered those of us who were in those trainings to feel like, you know, the things that we're doing are right and we're on the right path, and it really made us feel as if we were empowered enough to take the next step. And that's kind of why we're here. And we really just want to give the kids that same empowerment and the ability to, you know, advocate for themselves and for others, and to just find their place. I keep saying that, but it's really kind of important. We've had a lot of conversations with students about how they just want to find a place that they fit.
I think that Amy and Mr. Bradley did an excellent job at this part, at all of it really, but specifically this, because they had great insight about starting off with first steps. You know, I have a tendency to jump all the way to the end of the line, and what I hope to happen is the big picture. But these are really great ways for us to be able to make change by starting like right at the beginning, creating safe spaces for the people who are in the LGBTQIA plus communities and the allies, giving them an opportunity to participate in activities that might make them more aware or help them spread more awareness and inclusivity. And then I think that we'll end up doing a lot of discussions about important topics within our community and the LGBTQIA community.
So Mr. Bradley already read how this connects to the framework, but you know, it's really just about diversity and equity and inclusion, empowerment. Those are really the key factors for creating the GSA. So again, just the school and community, just building the bridge to bridge the two. We have a lot of amazing things that happen at school, and we have a lot of amazing things that happen in the community. And sometimes there isn't a connection between the two. So we're hoping that the GSA will be the connection between what's happening at school and what's also happening within the community.
Yeah, we're hoping to take those initial steps within our school, involving people from these targeted communities and their allies, focusing on media like books, documentaries, different video media to help us delve into those important topics within the school, and then eventually, as a longer term goal down the road, doing the same for our larger community.
So the how is really kind of the fun part for us. You know, Amanda has some phenomenal ideas. She has a bigger reach with the amount of kids that she sees in the library. And a lot of the kids have been very forward and have come to us and have specifically asked for things that they would like to see the GSA do and be a part of. Our biggest goal, though, is to really create an environment for allies and the LGBTQIA community to come together and learn from one another. That's really our main goal. Of course, we want to do, you know, other little things along the way, and then eventually lead into bigger type activities. But to just start, our first main goal is to just create an environment where everybody feels safe and welcome and free of judgment. So that is pretty much it. If you have any questions, our emails are on there. We are happy to answer any questions now as well, if you have anything.
So I'd like to really, once again, just thank Amanda and Amy, and, the success of the club, I think, is really going to be predicated upon the fact that these are two teacher leaders that have excellent relationships with students, and who that students feel safe, comfortable, and that they can trust. Because without that, it wouldn't matter if we had it in place, because the students wouldn't go. But knowing how well they're connected and how they're able to work with students, I see that really being the foundation on which we can build something pretty great.
Board members, do you have any questions? Comment?
I don't have a question. I have a comment. I just want to thank our staff. It just seems like every time we have a meeting or every time I engage with someone, they have an idea or a way to include another segment of our student base, and make them feel more part of our community. And I just want to thank everybody for doing that, because with all the social emotional issues that we deal with every day, I think it's more and more important for the inclusiveness of our district to be reach as far as it can. So thank you, guys.
Else? I don't hear any other questions, but,
I have one, Cinda.
oh, you do? Where, Paul, I've lost you. I don't know.
I'm waving, I don't know.
Oh, okay, you're not in my, go ahead, Paul.
I'm not on your radar, I'm hurt, I'm
No.
trying.
You are now.
So first of all, again, thank you, but I do have one question on the quick stats slide. I'm questioning, I'm just curious, what are the demographics? Was that our district? Was that Wayne County? Was that state? I just wasn't sure. If you mentioned it, I'm sorry I missed it.
No, that's okay. I believe that those stats, so they come from the Human Rights Campaign, and I believe it is a nationwide stat.
Okay, so we don't have any, yeah, that's good enough. Okay, thank you.
So Paul, I think the heart of what you're getting at is the need, right? Like making sure we're filling the void for students because there's a need. Is that what you're looking for?
Well, that, and yeah, I was just kind of looking at where we fit in that big picture, that big quick stat slide, but it may be, anyway, I'm
Yeah.
all.
No, I would say our population in terms of our specific percentage, we haven't drilled down deep enough to get into that. Really, this does fill a void that's existed here for a while. And they mentioned Jeanette Adam Price, and the response of our staff and the response of our students when we went through the staff development really was the catalyst for this. And as Scott said, Amy and Amanda brought it forward right in the middle of the training. So I think it's something where in time we'll be able to report back to the board in terms of percentage of participants. I don't know that we'll ever have the specific populations that are listed in the national data, but I kind of got the sense like we're proposing a club to fill a need, and I would say that is very much the case. And I think that what Scott elaborated on in terms of the trust and the willingness to move forward with these two adults is really indicative of the relationships they've fostered with our children. So I think we'll report back, and I think the goal and the intent is if the board approves the club, we'll use this as a pilot year and then report back next year and say, hey, here's what we were able to do. These are the accomplishments, and here are some of your numbers.
We did take a very unofficial poll by just asking kids that, I had in class and that were in the ALC and kids that were in the library. And out of the kids that we polled, 65% of them did say that a GSA was something that we needed. Again, very unofficial, very, just kind of us talking to kids and asking, do you think that a GSA is needed? And 65% of the kids that we did ask did say that it was needed.
And I would like to, this is very anecdotal, so take it as you will, but in the survey, we did leave an opportunity for students to make comments, and I won't read them all back to you, but I was extremely proud of a lot of our students who with the way they phrase things, we're both allies or in the LGBTQIA community. We got like a wide range, who said really insightful, kind, wonderful things. So I just was very impressed by their feedback about the need for this too.
Linda?
Just want to say that it does sound like it's something that students are reaching out for. And I think it's wonderful that kids that have been felt marginalized in the past may not feel so marginalized with this group.
Our hope.
Yes. Thank you. That's very informative and sounds like we're moving in the right direction. Very good. Thank you.
So Cindy, speaking of the right direction, I'm going to segue right into our next presentation, if that's okay with you. We're fortunate enough to have Bridget Barr, Sarah McLean, and Fred Prince tonight presenting the school improvement plan from community schools, human resources, and our special education pupil personnel services. So I'm going to turn it right over as soon as Tina can get their slides up, and let Bridget kick this off.
Bridget, are you muted?
Let's start that again. Sorry. Thank you so much for this opportunity to present on the same evening as Regent Norwood. The information that he shared certainly provides context for the work we're doing through community schools to support the district's action plan. And I want to first start talking about our community promise that focuses on partnerships. So our parent liaisons are the hub of partnerships between the school, families, and our communities. And beyond providing information on school and community events and listening to parent, staff, and community feedback in order to problem solve, our parent liaisons are creating morale boosting activities through activities such as staff shout outs and the welcome back survival kits that they created for staff. But they're also very instrumental in helping to prevent the strategic action plan in the community. So they went out into the community to see who would be willing to host Cougar Values posters. And at this point, we currently have 25 businesses or community entities that are willing to participate, 17 of which will also be posting Spanish language posters to include our Spanish speaking community. The WIOA and Steady Work programs engage at-risk students and youth in work experiences to develop work skills in a safe environment while developing relationships. At this time, we currently have 7 students who are participating in these programs on a regular basis, whether they're working in the district or at Changes, which is a new local youth development center. Our second promise is around equity, and as Regent Norwood just shared, there is a disparity of resources and barriers to accessing resources in our region. Those barriers could be financial, they could be a lack of providers, or they could be geographical in nature. So in order to offset these barriers and ensure our students' needs are met, we have co-located Wayne Behavioral Health Network, Family Counseling Services of the Finger Lakes, Delphi, as well as multiple mental health, school counselor, and social work interns from a variety of local institutes of higher education within our buildings. This year, we'll also be providing free dental services for all 3 buildings. We also have multiple resources to ensure that our students and community members' nutritional needs are met. The Cougar Cupboard, which is a 501(c)(3) that is run separately from the district, but is housed in the high school, has provided support to an average of 56 households over the past several months. Families with food insecurities can also have the Food League food boxes delivered monthly by various volunteers, such as our parent liaisons. We have retired staff who do that, parents of students in our communities, and even a few board members have participated as well. So our social emotional promise is supported by several grants that are allowing us to integrate new programs this year. So Teen Mental Health First Aid is a primary focus of our mental health awareness training grant, and it helps students to develop an understanding of mental health and signs of mental health disorders, and then how to assist their peers who may be experiencing this type of distress. At this time, we have 2 trainers who are trained, and they are going to be beginning implementation in our high school health classes. But realizing the need for this for as many students as possible, we're also going to offer after school sessions through Lyft for students who may not be currently enrolled in health, but are interested in participating in the program. Through our Optimal Health Grant, we have the opportunity to educate students in the Safe Dates curriculum. And this program supports healthy relationships and communication skills, which are meant to reduce relationship violence. And Primary Project is designed to help early elementary students who are apprehensive about school feel good about their school experiences. The children will work with a specially trained child associate and engage in child-directed, expressive play activities. And while playing, they're learning skills such as expressing feelings and problem solving. So we administered the behavioral screener to our kindergarten through 2nd grade students. And our Primary Project team selected 10 students that they thought would be a good fit for the program and communicated with their parents. And at this time, we have 7 students who are ready to begin the program in the first round of Primary Project next week. So we're very excited to see that. Our academic promise is meant to increase access to accelerated learning and enrichment opportunities and to expand early exposure to the school environment. This fall, we opened a 3-year-old UPK half-day program to provide early exposure to our programming and curriculum through play-based learning. We currently have 9 students enrolled in the morning class and 9 students enrolled in the afternoon class. So both classes are full. And if you are ever feeling sad, just go and take a few minutes in the 3-year-old class. It's pretty amazing. Through the New York State School Violence Prevention Grant, we have expanded the Alternative Learning Center to allow for increased participation of at-risk disengaged students with an integrated social emotional curriculum. Through this program, the ALC staff develops individualized plans for students and works collaboratively with families, our teaching staff, the guidance department, and administration to meet our students' needs. 82 students have participated in the ALC this year. There have been 15 9th graders, 16 10th graders, 14 11th graders, and 25 12th graders. 12 additional students have completed their credit recovery and have exited the program. This year, through 21st Century, we are very excited to be able to return to in-person extracurricular programming. And since July, we've had 157 participants in the elementary school program, 165 participants at the middle school, and 50 participants at the high school. And additionally, we also added in the early morning discovery program at the elementary school, which provides programming daily from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. before school starts. And we have also created tutoring positions through the 21st Century Grant that allow us to hire in-house tutors that lead one-on-one or small group lessons for students requiring targeted assistance as identified through our MTSS process. And those tutoring sessions may be provided virtually or in person. And then finally, our financial promise. We talk a lot about how important it is to braid funding from multiple sources and from multiple grants, because it's important that if we are dependent on those funds, if that fund should end or that source of revenue should end, we don't want to have to lose whatever programming that it was supporting. So this is something that I focus on with every grant that I pursue and write. So for example, at this time right now, I'm really focusing on including funding for out of school time opportunities whenever that would fit the grant objectives, just to ensure that we continue to provide these experiences should the 21st Century Grant not be renewed after June 30th this year. And through this process of utilizing these multiple sources of income to support programming, we have guaranteed that we have approximately $430,000 available for each of the next 3 years to continue to provide out of school time opportunities such as academic support and enrichment and youth development programming. And lastly, I'm pretty excited about this. Last month, we were informed that we won a BJA, Bureau of Justice Assistance Stop School Violence Grant, and that will allow us to continue to expand the ALC. We will receive approximately $330,000 a year for the next three years through this grant. And when we combine that with the New York State School Violence Prevention Grant that I mentioned earlier, it provides us with resources to continue to develop and expand the ALC program. So again, I want to say thank you for this opportunity, and I will turn it over to Fred Prince, our Director of Human Resources.
Thank you, Bridget, and thank you, Board of Education members, for giving me the opportunity to highlight some of the roles and responsibilities of the Human Resources Director. This was a new position that was just created this year. I started on July 1st. So I'd like to just, for a first report on this position, just show you and highlight how this position functions within the organization and some of the things that I've been able to accomplish. So I've broken it down into 5 different categories, and I'll go through and we'll talk about each one. Next slide, please. So first and foremost, I serve as a member of the administrative team working on the cabinet of the superintendent of schools. In this position, I can work through issues strategically, looking at things through a broad-based district-wide perspective, and assisting the superintendent in advancing the school's mission, vision, values, and initiatives. I have to ensure my interactions with all stakeholders is professional at all times and reflects our school district's values. Next slide, please. I oversee the recruitment and hiring process. Prior to this position being created, the service side and the professional teaching side were handled in different areas of the school district. By combining these under one umbrella, we are able to really realize some opportunities to really be more responsive to our building and department needs. These days, and Regent Norwood touched on it a little earlier about the healthcare industry, but really in all industries, we are competing for candidates, for quality candidates with other schools and outside private industries. If we don't act quickly, we found that people will accept job opportunities elsewhere. You combine this with recently we enacted, we raised the starting rate for our service employees to $15 an hour. This was very insightful, and I can tell you it has had a huge impact on our ability to attract people to come into our schools, into these service positions. On the professional side, on the teacher side, we are paying a premium to get teachers to come out. We are a little bit geographically challenged, but the foresight with where our salary range lies has really benefited us. And along with this, having everything under one umbrella, so I know what all the positions are, I know what jobs are coming up. There's a lot of instances where I'll have someone approach me. They may be looking for, say a food service position. We don't have one open. If they sound like a promising candidate, I could say, well, we have a cleaning position open. Would you like that? So just doing this, we're able to get more people into the pipeline here. I've also started bringing in people as subs. These are people who have a lot of potential. They would like a full-time position, but we just don't have them available because right now all of our service departments are fully staffed, which has not happened in a while. So I've started to bring in people as subs, and when we do have a position open, they would be ready to jump right in. We've switched our advertising from local papers to an online platform because people are not looking for jobs in the penny saver anymore. They're doing everything online. My main vehicle for this is Indeed.com. It's the number one job search engine out there. It allows us to cast a wider net. So I can sponsor jobs in both Rochester and Syracuse. When people apply, the first thing I do is I reach out and make contact with them. Because of where we are located geographically, just want to make sure that they're okay with a 45-minute to an hour commute. I get to highlight all the great things we're doing at our school and see if it sounds like a good match. If it is, I send them a link to our website and we initiate the process from there. It's been very timely for us, and it's really helped us move things along. Next slide, please. So it's just a listing. These are the positions that have been filled since July 1st. I have put them in as categories for you to see. In total, there is 62 positions, people that we have brought in and we have onboarded since July 1st. Hopefully, by tomorrow, this will be 63 positions, as we have a special ed teacher with high school certification, 7 through 12 coming in. Next slide, please. Mentoring. This is something that Megan and I do together. We work with our directors of transportation, food service, maintenance and facilities, and technology. And we're trying to develop leadership in those areas. And we do this by modeling leadership to them. We set goals, we provide honest, open feedback, we hold them accountable for results. We encourage them to take risks. If you get it wrong, it's okay, just learn from it. If you get it right, they gain self-confidence to do it again. And then we encourage them to do it better. The ultimate goal is to get our directors to think like chess players. We want them thinking 3 moves ahead. Next slide, please. So part of this position, there is business, office, and district-wide duties. I am one of the Title IX compliance officers. I would be investigating incidences or reports of harassment or sexual harassment. I'm the civil service appointing officer. Civil service is a somewhat archaic program, but it is governed by a strict set of rules and regulations. We have to dot our I's and cross our T's. And that's where a lot of our service industry positions come from. I'm also the deputy purchasing agent. I have the ability to issue and approve purchase orders. I'm the deputy tax collector, although I will say I can't claim a whole lot of credit in this area because Roe does about 90% of it. But I have been able to assist several taxpayers at tax time with questions. I oversee the district access and badge system, approve attendance and payroll, ensure that evaluations get done in a timely fashion, ensure that new employees and existing employees get the safe schools training. And I have completed transparency and equal employment opportunity commission reports. So that one is a state report and the other is a federal report. Next slide, please. And lastly, resolving employee issues. This would be more in line with what you would think of the traditional human resources position, listening to employee concerns, answering questions, conducting investigations, intervening in matters that escalate beyond the building. So this would be, say, a grievance when it gets to a step 2. That would come to me, or certain acts that are egregious enough that it would rise to the district level. Proceed over disciplinary matters, write counseling memos, deliver them, and consult with the school's attorney quite a bit.
Good evening, everyone. I'm very excited for the opportunity to present for my first time about our special education and pupil personnel services department and how we're working towards achieving the goals of the strategic action plan and fulfilling our promises to the community. So that first promise is partnerships. And one of the ways our department is looking to do that is continuing to utilize Zoom as a means for parents to attend CSE, CPSE, and 504 meetings, and also offering parents in-person meetings if they prefer. We have found that Zoom allows more families to be able to participate because it minimizes the amount of time they have to take off from work or childcare to be able to attend. Right now, we're at about 62% parent participation, so we'd really like to get that number up for the second half of the school year, and we're going to do that by making sure that my office is calling families and emailing families the day before the meeting, and also having case managers contact families to remind them of the importance of having them there at the table with us. Another exciting piece is that our 1211 students, 2 of them are able to go out into the community again through ARC to get some real life work experiences. They've not been able to do that because of COVID. So we're very excited to be able to partner with the community once again to provide them with those amazing opportunities. As far as equity, as we know, we're still in the throes of a pandemic, and so we've had to deal with quarantining and classrooms going remote. And we have worked very hard with our related therapists to provide related services while students are at home via teletherapy, which has been a great way to ensure that our students are still getting what they need when they can't physically be at school. In addition to that, we're participating in a technical assistance with the state based on some data from a few years ago. We are identified as exceeding the cap for our alternate assessment. So that's at 1%. So we don't want more than 1% of our students in that category. And so what we've been doing is just kind of looking at that data, and what we realized is we don't really have a problem with that. We're not over identifying students to do that. It just happened to be a year that there were, it all falls into birthdays, and it just happened to be that there was a lot of kids around the same birth date, and that kind of put us on the list. But the important piece with that is that it continues to force us to look at our processes and make sure that when we make those decisions for students that we've exhausted all other options for them and ensure that that's the appropriate decision to make for them. Next slide, please. As far as social emotional, Bridget did a great job talking about that. So we're certainly looking to continue to partner with those outside agencies and utilizing interns and utilizing our own in-house staff to make sure the mental health needs of our students are being met. In addition to that, something we're working on this year is getting the mental health team together on a more consistent basis so that we can develop some consistency across all 3 buildings, and also give that team an opportunity to work together, collaborate, get to know one another better, and review different types of curriculum that might be beneficial for the entire district. As far as academic, we've instituted monthly special education department meetings to ensure consistency across all 3 buildings. We're working on making sure that our IEPs are of high quality and also compliance. And then also working to create a continuum K-12 of very robust continuum of different programs we can offer students. And again, to help with that consistency so that families are aware of what's available to students at each building and across the district. And next slide. And last but not least, financial. So this year, we had a teacher at the middle school resign, which left an open position. We realized that we had only 2 students in our 1211 class, so we were able to successfully move them up to the high school class to provide them an opportunity to be with more students and have that opportunity to learn from other students and get to experience the things in a larger class setting. And that allowed us to then move the teacher that was teaching that into the 8th grade position to cover that, as well as move the TA that was in the middle school class up to the high school to cover that position as well, so that we didn't need to add any additional staff and that we were still able to meet the needs of our students, which is always our top priority. We're also looking at, I've also asked all staff to provide projections for students so that we can make appropriate programming decisions for students in regards to program services and aids, so that we are being fiscally responsible and ensuring that we know exactly where our students need to be and what they need, and then to help with that budget piece, because we know special ed takes up a significant portion of the budget. And last but not least, we are working really hard on our Medicaid reimbursement. And so just to give you an idea, so far this year, we have claimed $110,000, and we've been paid about $72,000 with a net of $36,000 to the district. And why that's really important is that last year total, we were only paid out $64,000 and a net to the district of $32,000 for the whole year. So we've already exceeded what we did in a whole year last year with the first part of this school year. So we are on pace to be able to claim and get money back to the district, to reinvest in our students, to date back to like the 17-18 school year. And we're hoping to exceed that number, which would be a more reasonable amount for a district of our size.
Very informative, all of you. Thank you. Board members, do you have any comments or questions questions for the presenters? Linda?
Just comment for all of the directors, just outstanding. One thing though that I did want to comment about is how well we're doing with grants and the grant writing. And I think Bridget earns a gold star for that.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Paul?
Specifically to Bridget, first of all, I thought all three presentations were really feel-good presentations and really enjoyed them. Bridget, thank you for mentioning that we've been able to provide dental care. I'm sorry, Mike, you probably have told me that, but somehow tonight it just really struck me. That's fantastic. The other thing I'd like to applaud is that you are aware, like you mentioned, the 21st Century Grant will expire in July. Now, I do have a question. There's an opportunity for us to renew that, but I'm really pleased to see that you're aware that as these grants terminate, we don't fall off what we were kind of learned to use as the cliff when all of the expenditures continue, but the funding stops. So thank you.
Jason?
I just wanted to say thank you for keeping the focus on taking advantage of opportunities. A couple of years ago, I remember when Bridget first came on board with us, she was really energetic about offering programs to students through grant programs more than what we were doing in the past. And I wondered if it would fizzle off a little bit, but it doesn't. You never seem to surprise, or you always seem to surprise me, I guess is my point, when your focus is on how can we maximize grants and aid that's out there for our students to offer things that other rural schools don't offer. So thank you to everyone for doing that, because it takes a load off our taxpayers, and it provides our students with things that other rural schools wouldn't necessarily have. So thanks.
Paul, you're muted. Okay, go.
Yeah, I didn't hear that I was on. Okay, great.
I'm sorry.
Also to Sarah, I wanted to mention again, well done on the Medicare. That was something that I wasn't even aware of. So pleased that you're pressing on that. And another applaud is that how you were able to maneuver there when the one teacher resigned, and we were able to fill the slots perfectly. So great, thank you.
Okay, great. Anyone else? All right, thank you. We'll move on to the policy committee report. Paul?
We just have the one policy up for the board tonight, the 7313 for a first read. And then we just changed what we became aware of the fact that our code of conduct and our policy were out of sync. So we've changed the 30 days to 15 days in the paragraph on the last page. That's all we changed. We read it thoroughly. We thought it was a good policy the way it was. So all we've done is align the dates. And just again, warning, next meeting, we're gonna throw some more policies, several policies at you. So beware. Thanks.
We'll be getting the second read on the ones that were presented last meeting for a first read, right? At next meeting?
I'll ask Tina. I think we're all done with the ones. that we-
Everything was, we approved the, we had the final approval last meeting. This is a start of new ones now. At our last meeting, we approved policies that we did for the first read at the November meeting.
I thought we pulled one.
We did, we pulled 1510, but they reviewed it and I did not have an opportunity to fix it.
But that'll be coming back for the second read, right?
The first read again.
First read. First read.
Oh. Okay. 1510, yeah, okay.
Yes, that's it, yes.
Okay, thank you. All right.
And I'm going to ask that you allow me to dismiss the administrators. We're getting close to that 8 o'clock hour. So if you don't mind, I would just wish them all a good night. Thank them for their presentations. And then
Thank you.
because I sit with John on the safety committee, I can answer any questions that he may have. So thank you to the administrators.
All right, John, we'll move on with the safety committee report. John. John is frozen up, I think. I'm not receiving any response from John. Are you there, John?
We're getting a delay from someone's computer.
I'm not sure who, everybody is muted. I'm not sure what's going on.
So Cindy, because we're pressed, I mean, if John comes back, do you want to keep moving and we can,
I
you
do.
know, yeah.
But we can always do the report on the safety committee at the next meeting as well.
Thank you. I came in the last couple, I missed the first few minutes of the meeting. Can you hear me?
Yes,
John, we're gonna move along to the next one because you're cutting in and out, okay?
Uh-oh. It
uh,
has been cold outside, but I know it's so cold inside.
okay. Good. We'll move on to public access.
There was no one.
Uh-oh.
Um,
I'm still here.
It's interesting. My computer says he's muted, but I keep hearing him.
Me too. I'm not sure, but there is no public access.
Okay, all right. No one is signed up. Then we'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion, please, to approve the consent agenda? Tina and Jason? Discussion? Questions? All right, then all in favor of approving the consent agenda? Thank you. The motion is carried. We are moving on then to page 4. Is there good news? Or shall we, all right, Paul, do you have some good news?
I do. We put an increased emphasis on some of the alternative learnings, and here at the Wayne County Career Center, we had several students that were on first quarter award winners. Mackenzie DeWolf, Katie Kent, Maureen Lufito, Seth Marciner, Ali Pencha, Clayton Reed, and Aaron Youngman. So I just wanted to give them credit for their awards. One more, the Alfred State Dean's List. We have Paige Shipley from North Rose-Wolcott on their Dean's List. Also, Lauren Bullard. Well, one more too, Alexis Perkins. So well done to all of them. And then a quick, some of you may have seen this out of the Lakeshore News, our own Linda Egnor, and part of the float. And we have several of our local individuals on that float committee. So I just want to say, well done, thanks.
Thank you, Paul. Our agenda calls. Oh, John, did you have some? I don't hear you, John.
I was just, you can't, okay.
No, we can't do it. No. Sorry about that. We'll have to get you fixed up for the next meeting, John. The next item on the agenda is the superintendent's update. I think we were going to move along and not do one tonight.
Correct.
Because we need to get on to the discussion, the board member discussion with Jason. Jason had asked to speak to the board at last meeting and couldn't be with us, and so he's with us tonight, of course. So Jason, take it away.
I'll try to make this short and sweet, guys. A couple of weeks ago, I had sent out an email with some information on electric school buses and whether or not anybody would consider the discussion of possibly looking into it and how it could benefit our district. I've done quite a bit of research, and from what I can tell, without knowing our exact route, the mileages of our routes, I think there's a lot of positives. One being that I think this is probably the most important one. It gives our students a little pride in the fact that they're taking into consideration future generations and how we impacted the environment. Secondly, it's going to decrease the maintenance in the bus garage. You know, we always want to do more with less. And things like oil changes, transmission services, things like that that take up time out of our mechanics day could possibly be a benefit to the district monetarily. I even went as far as thinking about how long it takes our bus drivers to fill up a gas tank or a fuel tank on a bus, and I figured it was probably on the average of 5 minutes with the size of them, 30 buses. That's 150 minutes. All of those things wrapped into one, I think that we would be doing ourselves a disservice by not considering at least investigating it. One of the biggest things that caught me was the average school bus gets about 7 miles per gallon. The average electric bus has a 25 to 34 mile equivalent to miles per gallon, which if we looked into it, I think would be a substantial savings on fuel. So if you haven't had a chance to look at it, I'd love for you to at least take a few minutes and look it over and tell me what you think. If the board believes it's worth exploring or asking our administrators to explore, great. If not, we can put it by the wayside.
So Jason has proposed that we consider looking into electric buses or instruct our superintendent to do some investigation with his people. Board members, it's up to the board. What is your opinion? Linda?
I'm thinking it's not a terrible idea to explore. The one thing that did pop into my mind was what kind of infrastructure we would need to have for the power supply and so on. I mean, those are all details and information that I think would be helpful, as well as what Jason forwarded to us. So we can take a look at that as well. I think it's good to be more green in terms of what we're doing. And I think it would give a sense of pride, but I'm hoping that we get more information so we can make a good judgment in terms of what's best.
I apologize, Linda. I thought I sent that out with the packet and I may have missed the attachment, but I have that and I'd be glad to send it to the board.
Okay, that would be helpful.
Well, yeah.
Because I know it's not just the cost of the bus, but the things that we're going to have to support their use.
I don't believe that it would be an all-in scenario. I think that it's probably something you'd start with a few and see how they work
Stage it in.
with our community. But either way, I just came across it and it caught my attention.
I want to caution the board. That isn't just a decision that we would say, okay, we want to do this, superintendent, go do it. I think what we would be doing here is to say to the superintendent, we'd like some more, we'd like you to look into it and make a recommendation to us on what you feel would be in the best interest of the district. That we're expressing interest is good. Izetta.
I had two things. One is, if everything is going to go electronic as far as cars and everything else, is the electronic grid going to be big enough to handle this? And two, what does the state, how does that look for reimbursement for buses? Do they reimburse for electric buses the same as state, or do they, or diesel buses? Do they not do it? What's the state stand on where their money goes?
That's a great question. And that's one of the first things that actually got me onto this was I came across a state program that was incentivizing electric buses. So I started thinking about it and looking into it. So there are additional grant programs for electric buses. I'm sure they're on and off throughout the years, I should say. As far as the electric grid's concerned, that's another great question, but I don't have an answer for it.
Right. Well, I know that everything's pushing, next year we're going to have all electric, or next 2 years or whatever. And that's a great incentive, a great idea. But are we as a nation set up to handle that? And I'd hate to find our district caught in the middle on that one.
Yeah.
It's a long ways for the poor kids to walk.
All right, board members, I'm going to ask you for an opinion. Is this a subject that you would like our superintendent to look into and to some degree? And if he wants to include a board member or two on looking into it, that's fine, but leave it up to our superintendent. Is this something you'd like the superintendent to do? Jason says yes. Izetta, are you I see thumbs up from John. Izetta's a yes. Tina's a yes. Linda's a yes. Paul?
I say yes, but in a relative priority. Our superintendent has a lot on his plate, but
absolutely,
yeah, I'm sure he'll farm it out to Jeremy. But yeah, it's a pretty interesting question for downstream.
Right. Okay.
And just, if I could just add one more thing, and I want that to be abundantly clear, this is by no means, in my eyes, a huge priority. I just think it needs to be on our radar because I think it's coming no matter what. The state has a couple laws that are being enacted as far as outdoor power equipment. Now it can't be gasoline operated. I think 2035 is the years that they're outlawing outdoor power equipment from being gas. So I think this is going to happen no matter what. And Michael, I know that you have a lot of things going on right now between COVID and capital projects. So this is not dire. It's just something I wanted to bring up to the board right now. So it's on the radar.
All right.
Definitely something we can explore. So I don't mean to be short, but we have other pressing matters. So if I will definitely take that and run, and we'll get back to you with a timeline, because I will work with Fred and Jeremy on that, and we'll present something to you, because I know a few neighboring districts did try electric buses out. And I know for metropolitan areas, that's also something. So we'll kind of put a skeleton together and get it back to you at some point this spring.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, we need to go into executive session. To anyone who's sitting in tonight, we will not be returning to do business. We will be returning to adjourn. That will be all. So at this time, I would like a motion, please, to go into executive session to discuss a legal matter. Izetta and Linda, any discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. You can stand up and stretch, but don't go away.